Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sah Viryan Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Good morning. This is our Vivekananda Study Circle Sunday morning class. We are in the last few classes reflecting on the lectures that Swami Vivekananda delivered on his return from the West, first visit to the West, that is in 1897. Today we will see the address that he delivered at Paramakudi. This was immediately after his lecture at Ramnad, which we discussed in the last Sunday. At Paramakudi, there was a grand public welcome. People were very enthusiastic, outpouring of their fervor, of reverence and happiness. And then an address was read out, thanking Swamiji, welcoming his Western disciples. It was indeed a spectacle in the India of those days to see an English captain, Captain Sevier, and his wife, Mrs. Sevier, and the American, Mr. Goodwin, Swamiji's almost chela, who was also a shorthand writer who noted down all his lectures. To see these 3 or 4 English white-colored people go around as the disciples of Swami Vivekananda, that was something very, very spectacular. The Indians of those times, because the white men were ruling India, and to go at the feet of one of their Swamis, very strange sight, and that made them feel, okay, our spirituality is equal to their material strength. That was a common feeling the people had. And it was a sentiment which Swamiji also supported. He said, yes, they are stronger than us in material terms, in arms, but we also have something. Our strength is now, has been always, the spiritual dimension of it. That doesn't mean we were ever always like this, materially weak, trampled by anyone who wanted to conquer and overtake us. It was a very strong nation. But for the last 1,000 odd years, it has become very weak. And that's why invasion after invasion, everyone has been looting us. This is this kind of thoughts that was there in the society. And in that background, Swamiji is replying to the address of welcome. And he was very kind, cordial, and 2 aspects of his personality stand out in this address. His spirit of unselfish service and his desire to see his work being carried on by others. Swamiji, very beginning of the lecture, Swamiji says, my love for my country, and especially for my countrymen, will be the same whether they receive me with the utmost cordiality or spurn me from the country. Because Sri Krishna tells us, work for work's sake, love for love's sake. So irrespective of whether you recognize my labor or not, I will continue to work for my country and countrymen. Immediately he adds, I am anxiously waiting for the day when mighty minds will arise, gigantic spiritual minds, who will be ready to go forth from India to the ends of the world to teach spirituality and renunciation. Those ideas which have come from the forests of India and belong to Indian soil alone, that doesn't mean there is no spirituality outside India. But the depths, the extent to which the Indian mind went into the field of spirituality and the treasures it discovered within man, that has not been discovered anywhere else. Then Swamiji starts presenting one very good idea, new for most people, as it is for us also, those who are not into the social sciences. He says, there come periods in history where the human race or nations are forced to re-examine their models of social life. There come periods in the history of human race when, as it were, whole nations are seized with a sort of world weariness when they find that all their plans are slipping between their fingers, old institutions and systems are crumbling into dust, and their hopes are all blighted and everything seems to be just out of joint. So everything is going out, all prosperity, whatever we are trying to achieve, nothing seems to be working. We are not having happiness, things are going wrong. Such kind of an experience comes to the whole of mankind. So mankind, Swamiji says, across the world, societies as different sections of this mankind, they have tried to base their society on two models. Two attempts have been made in the world to found social life. One was upon religion and the other was upon social necessity. Religion means spirituality. This is founded on transcendentalism. Yes, what is the hope? What is it that gives you the strength to face everyday life? What is it that gives you meaning to your life? Not just what I see around me, but a perception, not even a belief. A deep intuitive perception of life beyond this manifest world, beyond what I see. An experience of that, not just a belief. That experience, though if it is had only by a small number of people, that experience, I have faith in the Vedas, you see, in the Shruti, the Vakya. That gives me the confidence, the courage, the motivation, and the hope to face everyday life. So this is founded upon transcendentalism, a transcendental experience. This looks upon the horizon of this little material world and is bold enough to begin life there even apart from the other. There is something beyond what I see, and that something unseen, it gives me hope and courage to face this scene. This is one model on which society is built. The other is built on materialism. It is founded on realism. I see this world, I am living in this world, and I will manipulate, manage it, control it, and I will build it, my life in such a way that I am comfortable and happy. And this building my life, depending on what I see, it gives meaning and joy to me. This is building the society on materialistic terms. Nothing wrong. And we are not comparing and saying one is better than the other. Swamiji is not doing that. It is content to take its stand on the things of the world and expects to find a firm footing there. So two kinds of society, two patterns. But very next moment, Swamiji points out, it is not that once a society is built like that, forever it is built on spirituality, forever it is built on materialism. He now makes a point where he says, it is always a wave. Materialism and spiritualism follow each other in wave-like motions. At one time, full flood of materialistic ideas prevail. Everything in this life, prosperity, education which procures more pleasures and food, everything will become glorious. But then it will degrade and degenerate. Why? Along with prosperity will come jealousy, competition, intense, merciless competition and cruelty. Cruelty will be the watchword of the world. We are seeing it around us. And he gives that English quote, everyone for himself and the devil take the inmost. Then that society, which is building its hope, finding its resources, strength to face this world on materialism, in that society, the whole scheme of life will soon be seen as a failure. And the world would be destroyed had not spirituality come to the rescue. Suddenly in that society, a new wave, this other aspect of this, that is spirituality, will start rising up. It will give a lending help hand to the mankind, that society, and then that society, that world will find new hope, a new basis for a new building, and spirituality will rise. But will that solve the problem? It will not also solve. Very strange. As a rule, spirituality brings a class of men who lay exclusive claim to the special powers of the world. It happens not only in India, in every society. When spirituality becomes dominant, a small group of people will say, we are the interpreters. We are the ones who discovered this. Slowly, all power is gathered in their hands. The immediate effect of this is a reaction towards materialism, which opens the door to scores of exclusive claims until the time comes when not only all the spiritual powers of the race, but all its material powers and privileges are centered in the hands of a very few, the Egyptian pharaoh. He claimed he was the supreme secular power and he was also the supreme sacred authority. That's what the Egyptian pharaohs claimed. It was also done in caliphate. I am the supreme power and I am also the secular head. It was also done by the church, which said, I am the representative of Lord God, so I am the sacred authority and secular power also I want. Because I will crown who will be the king of France, I will crown who will be the king of England. All the emperors should kneel at me. So I am supreme, no emperor is greater than me. The history of the world is the history of this conflict between secular power and sacred authority. Historians know this. In India, this has not happened. This probably is the only land where this fight did not happen. This is probably the only land where it did not happen. In Mahabharata, Yudhishthira asks Bhima, to whom does this land belong? Does it belong to the priest or the king? Priest represents the sacred authority and the king, the secular power. And Bhishma says it belongs to both. They both have rights over it and they should have a harmonious relationship. Only then society will prosper. So material and spiritual both have to go hand in hand for the good of the society. This was discovered by India from the very beginning. We never find the spiritual authority. And again, there is a difference in India. The spiritual authority in India is not the priest. In other societies, it will be the priest. It will be a father, a bishop, or a qazi or someone, or a pharaoh's priest, but not in India. The sacred authority in India is the sannyasi. But the sannyasi is least interested in the king's powers or his material wealth. So there is no way he chooses to have any control over material power. The priest is there, but the priest only interprets the values created by the sannyasi. It is a deep subject. The priest is not the inventor of values. He is only the interpreter. The creator of values is the sannyasi. And that sannyasi is never interested in the king and his throne. But whenever he comes, the king gets up, and all the stories you see, oh, such and such a rishi came, immediately the king got up from his throne, washed his feet, offered him to sit there. He may sit and take all that, then he says, you keep your stupid throne, I'm going out. He'll go out. He's not interested in that secular power. But it was not so in the church or in the caliphate. They wanted both powers. They said, only we can control it. And there is always a fight. The history of Europe is the conflict between the church and the state. Same in the caliphate. But this is a movement, a wave-like movement. In any society, it happens, and they work out in many new ways. And when spirituality rises, this small group of people, they will also corner all the material goods also. That is the degradation. When material wave dominates, it will lead to intense competition, cruelty, and lack of self-control, and whole degradation will follow, and it will become, society will become totally degraded. Then spirituality will come, give them a helping hand, rise them up. But that spirituality, when it comes, a small group of people will start laying claim, all this is happening because of us. We are the center of the spiritual power. And because we are the center, they will also start laying claim for the material prosperity. And they will gather it, corner it, and it will lead to the degradation again. And then, again, materialism will come to save the society from this spiritual tyranny. First is material tyranny. Spirituality comes and saves the society. After some time, that spirituality becomes a tyranny. Then materialism comes and saves society. You see the history of Russia, you see any other history, this is what is happening. A visualization of the wave-like motions of materialism and spirituality. When the full flood of materialistic ideas prevails, then everything becomes very glorious, everything is grand, but very soon that prosperity will bring jealousy, hatred, competition, merciless cruelty, everyone for himself, and then degradation. Next step, it is now the spirituality coming to the help. Spirituality comes to rescue, lends a helping hand. World gets new hope. Oh yes, great spiritual divinity. But that spirituality, a small class of people will spoil it. In materialism, everyone gets spoiled. In spiritual, this thing, a small class of people who have initiated it, they get degraded first, and they lay claim everything is because of us, and they also corner all the material goods, and what do? They stand on the necks of the masses and want to rule them. At this point, society decides to help itself, materialism comes to the rescue. Materialism becomes dominant again, and the wave-like cycle continues. Every society at any point of time, it is in the clutches of the materialistic wave or in the control of the spiritual wave. See society across the world, we'll see this happening. Then Swamiji talks about the choice before India. Materialism has helped India in a sense. The European conquest of India, it has opened materialistic doors. How? For centuries, India's treasures, her spiritual ideas, have been kept locked up by the priests. Half of those treasures are stolen and lost when you were killed, butchered, when you were converted, so all that was lost. And the other half which remains is in the hands of men who, like dogs in the manger, do not eat themselves and will not allow others to do so. There is food kept in the dog, he is staying in his small that house like dog house. He will not eat, he will not allow others to have it. So half of their spiritual wealth is lost, and whatever is left, they themselves will not benefit. They have not invested their energies, no tapasya. Just because some great grandfather was a Chaturvedi, I continue the name Chaturvedi, or Trivedi, or Dvivedi. Some great ancestor was a master of 4 Vedas, Chaturvedi, master of 3 Vedas, Trivedi, master of 2 Vedas, Dvivedi. So I continue to keep the name, but absolutely nothing. So it is neither do you prosper, neither do you acquire, neither do you become strong by it, and nor do you share with others. That has become the condition of India. So when that spiritual tyranny comes, materialism doors open. In a sense, materialism has come to the rescue of India. It has thrown open the doors of life to everyone by destroying the exclusive privileges of caste, by opening up to discussion the inestimable treasures which were hidden away in the hands of a very few who have even lost the use of them. Even in the 1950s and 60s, when our Mutt wanted to translate Upanishads and other scriptures into Tamil language, orthodox sections, religious institutions opposed it. They said it cannot be published. It should be only in Sanskrit. But it was the mandate of Swami Vivekananda that all the scriptural wealth should be translated into vernacular language so that the common people can read. Yes, there is a danger they will not understand, they will misunderstand. But Swamiji says that is no excuse for not giving it to them. There is always hope that they will also benefit. It is better than not giving at all. So India is having this, but the model of material civilization that the West has, does that mean that it is very good? No, it is also decaying, somebody says. Political systems that India is struggling have been tried in Europe for centuries and have been found wanting. There is a warning here. Swamiji is warning to the fellow Indians. This is 125 years ago, mind you. Don't think everything in the West is good. They have tried out their political systems. It does not work for them. One after another, institutions, systems, and everything connected with political government have been condemned as useless. The material tyranny is tremendous. Wealth and power are in the hands of a few men who do not work, but manipulate the work of millions of human beings. By this power, they can deluge the whole earth with blood. Religion and all things are under their feet. They rule and stand supreme. The Western world is governed by a handful of Shylocks. When it is in the spiritual wave, a handful of priests, that class of people, they control every power, also try to gather all the wealth. When it is the material wave, A handful of Shylock. Shylock is a character in Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice, a Jewish moneylender. He lends money to the hero and he says, if you don't repay me, you will have to pay with your flesh. So that cruel a character is portrayed by Shakespeare. So that has become a byword for excessive interest charging person. He is called a Shylock. All those things that you hear about constitutional government, freedom, liberty, parliaments are but jokes. Because Swamiji had seen America. He had seen what kind of injustice is going on, though they say democracy and all. The West is groaning under the tyranny of the Shylocks, and the East is groaning under the tyranny of the priests. Each must keep the other in check. Here's what Bhishma tells Yudhishthira. Both of them are necessary for the good of the world. The king and the priest. Both should respect each other. Both should have freedom. Both should be working in harmony for the good of the world. That means we need both spirituality and materialism. Whether on the ground of materialism or of intellect or of spirituality, the compensation that is given by the Lord to everyone impartially is exactly same. Swamiji is bringing an idea here, another idea, because some of the Indians of that time felt, oh, we may be poor materially, but spiritually we are greater than these white people. Oh, we are great because we have so many rishis. Oh, we are spiritual great. So Swamiji says, just because you are spiritual doesn't mean you are greater in any way than the other man who is not spiritual. So he goes to a different length to explain that point. Each living being has some virtues not easily available to others. The worst, most demonical man has some virtues which the greatest saint has not. The lowest worm, whatever that worm is, it may be an earthworm or something even lower, may have certain things which the highest man has not. Again, he explains that idea. People who lead gross lives enjoy a life of as much equilibrium and balance as a highly refined and cultured life. The poor laborer, what is his joy? His joy is in his senses. He doesn't have intellect. He cannot understand Vedanta philosophy and so on. But he enjoys his life in senses. And there is equilibrium and balance in that enjoyment. Don't look down upon someone who is enjoying material dimension of life. Just because you think you have inherited something spiritual, don't have this arrogance or the thought that you are greater than the Westerners. Many Indians, because they could no way challenge the British either in power or in industry for various reasons, they said, okay, we may not match you, but spiritually we are very great. You are lower than us. So Swamiji is puncturing that kind of a false pride. Therefore, we must not think that we are the saviors of the world. Just because you think you have spirituality, which is true, Swamiji has told that in previous lectures, religion is the backbone of India. Spirituality but is what he means by religion, not the customs, the practices. Don't think that makes you superior to the white man. But that being said, we can teach the world what it is waiting for because we have that treasure. Swamiji makes a very profound statement, almost prophetic. The whole of Western civilization will crumble to pieces in the next 50 years if there is no spiritual foundation. It is hopeless, perfectly useless to attempt to govern mankind with the sword. All the dictators that we see, some of them have been killed, even in their lifetime. Gaddafi or all those, Hitler and others. Swami is pointing out, it is hopeless to try to govern mankind with the power of this world. The very center from which such ideas as government by force sprang up, those first were the very first centers to degrade and degenerate and crumble to pieces. Europe, the center of manifestation of material energy, will crumble into dust within 50 years if she is not mindful to change her position, to shift her ground and make spirituality the basis of her life. There is a wave-like motion in the West with the Europe and America. Materialism is becoming dominant. Swamiji says, there is a warning for you. Make spirituality as your ground. Shift your ground to spirituality, or else you will crumble because the wave will end like that. And for India, he is telling, you are degraded, neither spiritual nor material. You are in intense ignorance, tamas. Don't think you are spiritual. Because you are not material, then probably you are spiritual. No, you are neither spiritual nor material. You are in tamas, total tamas. Wake up. The Western contact has done good to you. It has brought materialism. And you don't have to search for spirituality because it is in your blood. The greatest discoveries mankind has done was done in this land, and you are its inheritor. Swamiji is bringing it out. In this lecture, Swamiji doesn't tell that, he has touched earlier. Now he's talking about what India can contribute to the world, to Europe, to the Western world. What will save Europe is the religion of the Upanishads. Swamiji boldly declares, India has the solution that will save Europe from its destruction within 50 years. What is that? What does he mean by spirituality? Spirituality, Swamiji says, is the science of the soul. That is the exact sentence he uses. Spirituality is the science of the soul. This is the one great truth India has to teach to the world because it is nowhere else. This is spirituality, the science of the soul. What is this science? India possesses a unique doctrine. What is that? Belief in the soul of man, or the Atman. This is the one idea that can change the whole tendency of the world. The one underlying doctrine among all the different sects, philosophies, and scriptures, Hindu, Jains, Buddhists, and others, is the belief in the soul of man, the Atman. It is this idea that can change the whole tendency of the world. Everywhere in India, there is the idea of a spiritual soul, which is the receptacle of all power. All systems of philosophy in India teach that you cannot get this power or purity or perfection from outside, because it is your birthright, your very nature. Impurity is a mere superimposition under which your real nature is hidden. So this is the gist of what the Upanishads are teaching you. There is a spiritual soul, you are that soul, and you are the receptacle of all power and purity. You do not require any assistance to govern yourself. You are already self-restrained. Then why am I struggling? Because you do not know your true nature. The only difference is in knowing or not knowing it. Why do I not know it? The one difficulty that has been summed up is avidya. You do not know it. That is why it is known as avidya, ignorance. What is the difference between God and man? Between saint and a sinner? Ignorance. Nothing else but ignorance. Because you and God are one. The saint and the sinner are one. He just doesn't end with saint and sinner. He goes ahead and says, what is the difference between the highest man and the lowest worm? Only ignorance. Inside every little crawling worm is lodged infinite power, knowledge, and purity. The infinite divinity of God Himself. But it is unmanifested. It will have to be manifested. The only difference is in manifestation. Inside each of us is the infinite divinity of God Himself, but it is unmanifest. In some, it is a little more manifest. In that person, a little more manifest. In this person, more manifest. That's why Swamiji says, each one of us is traveling, is moving, is evolving from lower truth to higher truth. That evolving from lower truth to higher truth means more manifestation of the inner light. More manifestation of inner light means less ignorance. Less ignorance means more awareness of my inner divinity, that is knowledge, power, purity. I have more awareness. Avidya is not knowing the truth about myself. Vidya is knowing the truth about myself. That is called Atma Sakshatkar. It is the religion of the Upanishads that will make mankind strong and fearless. How will mankind become strong and fearless? With this message of oneness of this world, oneness of this manifest world. What makes a man stand up and work? Strength. Strength is goodness, weakness is sin. If there is one word that you find coming out like a bomb from the Upanishads, bursting like a bombshell upon masses of ignorance, it is the word fearlessness. The only religion that ought to be taught is the religion of fearlessness, and only Vedanta does that. There is no question of threatening mankind threatening fellow human beings. If you don't do this, you will go to hell, you will be poked and roasted for eternity. Swamiji says, that will not work in future. You used it to control people all these 1,000 years. Now it will not work. This modern society will not accept that nonsense, that you will frighten us to be good. I will be good because that is my basic nature, not because I am afraid of it. Either in this world or in the world of religion, it is true that fear is the sure cause of degradation and sin. It is fear that brings misery, fear that brings death, fear that breeds evil. And what causes fear? Ignorance of our own true nature. And what is your true nature? That's what the Upanishads reveal. And this is the message. The oneness of the whole manifest world, the divinity of the whole manifest world, the divinity within man. This is the message that will save the mankind, especially now Europe, which is at the threshold or on the peak of material prosperity and probably heading for destruction. Swamiji says that. When this vision of oneness and divinity of each being is understood, it will change the way humankind looks at life. What will happen when you give this message? Not just to the West, for India also. Swamiji points it out. Don't think you have it. Your ancestors discovered it. You have lost it. How did I lose it? Materialism we lost. What little spirituality was there, a small group of people, they kept it with themselves. Half of it they lost again. They were killed or butchered or converted and they lost it. And they also lost it because they did not practice it. And whatever little is left, they are not sharing with others. So the whole society is neither spiritual nor materially prosperous.
Swamiji, I have one question. Can I ask?
Yeah.
Swamiji, we didn't lose materialism now, at least. Because if you see all the kings, some were enjoying, some were busy making their kingdom big. And the other people, they were always trying to become richer and enjoy the materialistic pleasures and all. And even Swamiji, many people who didn't know the scriptures, Vedanta, they were also somehow trying to become spiritual now. Somehow they were trying to transcend. Suppose a Shudra, he didn't have any access to the scriptures, but he wanted to know what is myself. He went to the forest and he meditated somehow also. Swamiji, it was not like we had lost spirituality and materialistic ideas. At least
I'll answer you after the talk.
Okay.
Please ask me at the end of it. Yeah. Each one of us are the substance of God Himself. In fact, according to the Advaita, we are God Himself, though we have forgotten our own nature in thinking of ourselves as little men. We have fallen from that nature and thus made differences. I am a little better than you, and you than I, and so on. This idea of oneness is the great lesson India has to give. And when this is understood, it changes the whole aspect of things because you look at the world through other eyes than you have been doing before. When I have no experience, but I have faith in the Shruti Vakya, Shastra Vakya. So I say, I am not just this body, mind, ego. I am something more. And I try to discover that. And I discover it is not just me, but everything else in this universe. It is in the same thing which we call consciousness or Brahman. In simple term, we call it God. We are God Himself, only forgotten our own nature. Each of us is heir apparent to the Emperor of Emperors, or of the substance of God Himself. Nay, according to the Advaita, we are God Himself, though we have forgotten our own nature in thinking of ourselves as little men. This is the Advaitic message. Now, what is the implication of this vision of oneness? First implication, we will see the world differently. We see it not as a battlefield, but as a playground. That is the first one. This world will no more be a battlefield where each one is struggling to win over the other, the stronger over the weaker, the weakest goes to death. No, it will not be like that. If I see you and I are one, love thy neighbor as thyself. Why? Because you and he are one. It becomes a playground where the Lord is playing like a child and we are His playmates, His fellow workers. That means there will be no cruel competition. There will be no saying survival of the fittest. That will be the first implication when we see this oneness of this world. Second implication, hope comes to the weakest when each of us knows that divinity is our very nature, is not alien to us. Oh, I am a papi, I am a fallen fellow, I am a frightened fellow, I am an ignorant fellow. All this is a superimposition. You are the same divinity. Nature cannot change you. When we have known the nature of the soul, hope comes to the weakest, the most degraded, to the most miserable sinner. Why? Your true nature is pure. It may be hidden for millions on millions of years, but it will not change. It will at last conquer and come out. Light will have to manifest. This is the second implication of the divinity within, understanding it. Third, your own karma has manufactured for you this body and nobody did it for you. You have yourself manufactured your body bit by bit, just as you are doing it this very moment. You yourself eat, nobody eats for you. You assimilate what you eat, no one does it for you. And what I eat is not just the physical food, but also whatever I take in through the senses, including the mind. You make blood and muscles and body out of the food. Nobody does it for you. So you have done all the time. Same thing. One link in a chain explains the infinite chain. If it is true for one moment that you manufacture your body, it is true for every moment that has been or will come. What I am is what I ate in the past, in this life or previous lives. And all the responsibility of good and evil is on you. That is a great hope. What I have done, I can undo. In that lies the great hope. So this is another implication of this idea that the Upanishad gives. It is not just a fanciful idea. The discovery of the rishis with a deep contemplation that the whole universe is one consciousness. At the same time, the grace of the Lord is always available to the pure at heart. Our religion does not take away from mankind the mercy of the Lord. Oh, you are pure Advaita, no place for God. No, it doesn't talk like that. On the other hand, he stands beside this tremendous current of good and evil. He is the boundless, the ever merciful. He always ready to help us in the other shore, to the other shore. For his mercy is great. It is always comes to the pure in heart. God, personal God also has a place in it. Now, this vision of oneness, we will need to form a new society. Your spirituality, in a certain sense, will have to form the basis of the new order of society. If a man has a very crude form of religion and wants temples and forms, he can have. If he wants a personal God to love, best idea, the noblest ideas of personal God, never attained anywhere, we have it here. And if a man wants to be a rationalist, satisfy his reason, then that also is available in this pure Advaita Vedanta. So, Swamiji is proposing India's vision of spirituality is all encompassing. The noblest idea of personal love, God is there. The most rational idea of impersonal God, that is also there. This can become the basis of a new society, not just in the East, but also in the West. Now, how this can help the West? That Swamiji, in this lecture, he is unable to explain. He says, time does not permit me, or else I could have explained how this Advaitic vision can help the West. In some other lectures, he touches parts of it, but in this lecture, he concludes here. I'll just give a brief summary of what are the points he presents here. There come periods in history when human race or nations are forced to re-examine their models of social life. Two bases on which the social life is built, material and spiritual. They come and go in waves. They follow each other in wave-like motion. Now there is a choice before India. Materialism has helped India, but the model of material civilization of the West, that wholesale we cannot import. And what Swamiji says that spirituality, let it be our foundation. On this, let us take the best elements of the material progress of the West. And he warns the fellow citizens, fellow Indians, don't be proud that you have something very great spiritual. Because whether on the ground of materialism or intellect or spirituality, everyone God has given impartially. And everyone is unique. Everyone is bringing something great to this whole thing called the world, the experience of life in this world. So we must not think we are the saviors of the world. Oh, we will save this West by giving them spirituality. Don't think like that. We can teach the world, certainly. What is it waiting for? It is waiting for its spiritual foundations. It is seeking to transform its basis for governing humanity. All the other governing with sword and other things, it has not worked. But India can give that solution. What is that? The Upanishads, the religion of the Upanishads. And what is this religion of the Upanishads? its declaration of the oneness of life. India possesses a unique doctrine, that is the Atman. This is the one idea that can change the whole tendency of the world. Discover your divinity within, see the same divinity outside. It is the religion of the Upanishads that will make humankind strong and fearless. You don't need anything other message, but this message that you are the repository of knowledge, all purity, all strength. That will give you the infinite knowledge, infinite strength. Remember that anecdote where that naked sadhu, Naga Baba, Alexander's representative goes and says, "Come with us." He says, refuses to come. Then he's threatened he will be killed. He says, "You didn't utter a bigger lie than this. What do you mean you can kill me?" You may call it madness, but he has no fear of death because he doesn't identify himself with the body. And when this vision of oneness and divinity of each being is understood, it will change the way how men interact, how men look upon each other. And this vision will have to form the basis of a new society. So what Swamiji is proposing is, let our spirituality be the basis, and we will take in the best elements of the material prosperity that the West has attained. And to the West, he says, if you don't make spirituality your basis, in 50 years you will crumble. And we saw 2 world wars which happened because materialism was the basis of it. Build more arms, try to control the whole world. And they killed millions of their own people. So this is the talk Swamiji gave at Paramakudi. In the next few Sundays, we will follow Swamiji as he comes. He comes to Madras, he gives a string of lectures here, then Calcutta, and then he takes rest, and then he goes to the West again. Yeah, so this much for this talk.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah. What was that question? Someone asked a question.
Yes, Swamiji.
Yeah, please ask again.
You were saying that India had lost both materialism and spirituality because they were not practicing it, and they were like they had occupied tamas. They were completely they were completely idle. You were saying, no, sir.
Yes.
But they were quite materialistic. No, if they are not spiritualistic, pakka they'll be materialistic. No, who doesn't want to get richer? Everyone was trying to get richer, and what do you say? They were trying to enjoy the materialistic pleasures.
Who? Kings,
and even the simple local people also who were there.
You should read history, my dear boy. You should read history. India was one of the poorest countries in 19th century.
In 19th century?
Yes, we are talking about 19th century, right? Swamiji is talking about 19th century.
But like in 19th century, India was invaded in 1000 itself, sir.
Yeah, by 9th century, 10th century invasion started.
Yes,
in 600 years, India was looted. Even until 1700, India was quite rich. It was all finished. Swamiji is talking to fellow Indians in 19th century, where we neither have wealth nor spirituality in practice. Lakhs and lakhs of Indians died of famine. You know that? Not thousands. Yes. Lakhs of Indians. They didn't die with material prosperity. They didn't have food to eat. Lakhs and lakhs of people. They say millions died of poverty, of hunger. That was India.
That's because of the British government. No, had they not
exactly.
For
your kings were also very rich. Your kings were rich. They didn't share it. So it was a condition where there was no spiritual strength left, no material prosperity also. Just a little history, if you see, you will understand. There is no spirituality left. All cock and bull stories, superstitions. That's what Swamiji repeatedly points out and thrashes us. He says, what is your religion? It has become a religion of the kitchen. How many times I should do this? How many times I should do that? How many times the bell should be rung? A fellow human being looks at my food and my food is defiled. That is spirituality. His shadow falls on me, I become impure. That is spirituality. Your Upanishads say the whole universe is one, and this was the society which said, an untouchable, if he sees my food becomes impure. This was a society where in Kerala, that fellow had to go, you are an untouchable. When you come in the road, you should come ringing a bell, so that we will all go away. Seeing you, we become impure. That is spirituality. That was the level to which India had degraded, both spiritually and materially. So Swamiji tells, yes, we have to improve, we have to build both. What we have done now is simultaneously it is building. India is building. On the surface, it will not be visible because there are so many forces working against it. And so many forces working also against the Upanishadic vision of oneness of the universe. There will be organized religions, we see, which always want to have power, which has, from the very beginning, tried to consolidate both secular and spiritual power in its hand. And that is possible when you organize. Army is organized. Similarly, religion also, when it becomes organized, it becomes a threat to society. Swamiji was against that. Hinduism has never organized like that. It has given freedom. You and your relationship with your God, it is your personal freedom. Father worships Shiva, mother worships Vishnu, son worships Kali, and daughter worships Krishna. It is accepted in Indian family. So it is not that India was prosperous. Yeah. Any other question?
Thank you, Swami.
Yeah.
Namaste, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Maharaj, when you mentioned that when this truth about consciousness is realized and a certain playfulness come to life, afterwards, what should be his way of living?
We don't have to think. He will know. And whatever he does, it will be for the good of the maximum. Bahujana hitaya, bahujana sukhaya. He will not plan. His every thought, every action will be for the good of the world. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, an expert dancer will never misstep. Betal podena, he would say. An expert dancer doesn't have to fear, oh, I may miss my step to the beat. The thought is not there because it has become perfectly tuned with the beat. The dancer's feet will dance to the music beats. So like that, once the person discovers his inner divinity, he will manifest only love. And that love will again manifest as service. Swamiji told the same thing. He said, you see, this is what the final result is. Do reverse engineering. Start looking upon this universe as God and serve it with that reverence. Shiva Gnane Jiva Seva is the phrase that he gave. When you discover your divinity, inner divinity, you will also discover the divinity in this universe. And when you see that divinity outside, it will automatically manifest as selfless service, loving service. So Swamiji said, when that is the end product, start manifesting it, though you may not have experienced it. Shiva Gnana Jiva Seva. Helplessly serve fellow human beings. It will help you to discover your own divinity and also lead to that inner joy. Yeah. Javar Kanishk has a question. Please ask.
I don't have any question. By mistake, I raised my hand.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Hello, Maharaj.
Yes.
So there was a statement in the talk that sometimes the virtues of it was something like that. Sometimes the virtues of a sinner are better than the virtues of a saint.
No, not like that. Sometimes the so-called demonical man has something which a saint or a very saintly person does not have. Everyone has something which is unique. Nature or God, whatever you call, he has given everyone something unique. He brings something which is unique for this world through him. So don't think because you are very spiritual, you have everything in this world, the other fellow has nothing to contribute to society. Don't think like that. That's what Swamiji is telling. He says this. The most demonical man has some virtues which the greatest saint has not. And the lowest worm may have certain things which the highest man has not. Then he gives an example. The poor laborer who you think has so little enjoyment in life, has not your intellect, cannot understand Vedanta philosophy and so forth, but compare your body with his, and you will see his body is not so sensitive to pain as yours. If he gets severe cuts on his body, they heal up more quickly than yours would. His life is in the senses and he enjoys there. His life also is one of equilibrium and balance. That's what Swamiji is telling. Because he saw in India, there was this tendency, oh, I am spiritual, I am better than this fellow, he is very ordinary because he is material. Swamiji says that is nonsense. Don't dismiss someone because you think you are spiritual and he is not spiritual. Everyone is adding something special to this universe, this life. Your so-called materialistic man also, demonical man also, he has something which probably you don't have, you so-called saintly person. And remember, he was talking always, Swami Vivekananda is very, very contextual. You always have to read and understand Swamiji in the context in which he is addressing or he is speaking those words. He talks to the people in front of him. He didn't know that his lectures would be read on YouTube, heard on YouTube and discussed online by people 125 years later. He was not keeping that in mind when he was talking with the people in front of him. And he was a spiritual giant who could see the ideas in each one's mind. So there were many Brahmins attending his talks and the so-called reformers who were standing there because they thought Swami Vivekananda is a great reformer. So it was not the farmer or the peasant more, but these educated Indians who were standing and listening to his talks. So when he's talking, some examples which he gives, it is also directed to his listeners, the hearers. So probably he made a point there because he saw them thinking, oh, we are very spiritual. These English Westerners, they are all crude. Yavanas, they are called. No? So the custom in India was you should not cross the sea, Kalapani. You cannot cross. If you cross, you will be Bahishkar, be thrown out of your caste. It is great sin to cross the ocean. This is what the priestly class had told India. Before going to the West, Swamiji visited Pondicherry. There, this topic of Swamiji going to the West was mentioned to a priest. Swamiji writes in a letter, I still remember that fellow's vehement kadapina, kadapina. In Sanskrit, it means never, never. A sannyasi, nobody should ever cross. A sannyasi should never go across the ocean. Mahapapam. Swamiji, across India, he went as a parivrajak. He wanted to know why India is so degraded, spiritually, materially. And he found three reasons for this degradation of India. First, he says, neglect of the masses. You have neglected the masses. They are working hard and you are enjoying their fruits. And you are stamping on their neck, which is happening even now. Second reason, you have insulted women. You worship her as Devi and all, but you are horrible fellows. You have tortured women. That is the second reason why India has fallen. Third reason, he said, you stopped interacting with the world outside when you invented the word mlecha. Mlecha means the foreigner. So any interaction with the foreigner is papam. Where is spirituality in this? There are so many reasons why this happened. And you stopped exchanging ideas with the world outside. Gunpowder is invented and you're still fighting with bows and arrows. So they came with a small army and blew you out. That's how India lost. So these are the three reasons Swamiji identified for the downfall of India. And he said, we have to go out. And now what do you have to go out and give? He says, you have your spiritual treasures, which no other society has. It has never been discovered anywhere else. It has been discovered only in this land. And that is the truth which is enshrined in your Upanishads. And it is kept hidden by a few people. Bring it out. Share it. First, share it among your own people. Share it simultaneously with the outside world. And learn from them the best that they have in the material prosperity. So this was the idea Swamiji. In all his talks, this is the main idea which comes out. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Maharaj, for clarifying.
Yeah.
Maharaj, this Vignesh, I have a question here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Vivekananda, I mean, he supported, the development and everything as we do as West, right? But in the recent years, what we see is we are seeing a hybrid seed, which is creating a lot of health issues, and we are doing more global warming, which is increasing the temperature and so many natural calamities. So if we do, material progress alone, like we are doing in West, right? So But if you consider in ancient Indian, we have our own organic foods and everything, which is better for health and all. So if we follow like that, we want to create a problem in future as well.
Certainly, it is already created. We didn't go deeper into your spiritual roots, you see. We simply aped the West. What Swamiji warned against doing, we have done it. They have a fashion, they have a hip hop style, they have a music, do it. They have this live-in relationships, do it. They use DTD and other things, do it. At least they have stopped using, we have not stopped doing it. They have learned, we are not learning. We'll all pay heavy price for it. Cancer is spreading like fire. Now every oncologist tells you, don't eat grapes. Don't eat grapes. Every grape is an additional risk for you to develop cancer. Why? Our own people, bunches of grapes, I was told by someone who grows that. They just take a mug full of chemical, water with that, soak it into that, and then remove it out. And they sell it to us. Don't they know? It can lead to cancer. They know. They say, I have to survive. Materialism brings that. Cruelty, selfishness, competitiveness. But India is not lost. Very simultaneously, you see, we are all sitting here on a Sunday morning trying to understand Swami Vivekananda. You could have spent this to do some gambling or go and enjoy something else. Why is it some of us are sitting here trying to understand something higher? You don't get money for this. Neither do I get, neither you get. And we are not alone. There are lakhs of people in India, across the world, who are trying to say, let us save ourselves and save this world. There must be a better way to live. So it is also there. So the whole universe is going through that process.
Thanks, Maharaj.
Yeah. And if you see YouTube, you will see all those spiritual talks, lakhs of people watching it. And let us hope a few hundreds are trying to practice it. Because most of the people who watch, they leave it there itself. And some will put it into practice. They will be the change makers. Yeah. Okay. If there's no more questions, can we conclude? Jabanjan?
Yes, Maharaji, we can conclude.
Okay.
Thank you, Maharaji.
Thank you.
It was very wonderful.
Not a problem.